All right, go ahead.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to week 13. This is block 1, labeling this watching and waiting. So this is supposed to happen last week. It did not, unfortunately. I had other things that came up, and we just decided to move it to this week. But this is going over then 2 weeks ago when I kind of introduced the idea that we were going to have a 3-lesson series that goes over what I believe is the building blocks to a profitable mindset, right? And starting off with the easiest one, it is simply watching and waiting in the markets. So we'll get straight into it. Starting with that watching part, the art of observation in day trading, right? This is how we remain objective, and it's by not actually placing trades. As soon as we decide to enter the market, there's going to be some level of emotional attachment to our trade or our money in that trade. Even if we're on a paper account, we still want that paper trade to win, but by completely remaining outside of the markets and watching them, this is how we can start to develop different ways to place trades, or if we already have a strategy, this is ways that we can, better get at risk management in moving our take profits, our stop losses, right? This is not putting any emotional barrier between what we should do and what we actually do, right? So the main objective is to remain objective. We don't want any emotion in this, seeing things that otherwise, would be clouded by the emotion, and look past the simple act of profiting and find consistency, right? So just watching the markets can serve so much benefit even though we aren't actively making money. That rolls right into what's next, is reading the market, right? If we are just watching, we aren't worried about what's going to happen next. We can actually read the market and look at, okay, well, this is what should happen based on these confluences, or this is what should happen based on my strategy. This is what I should do if the market reacts in this way, right? When we talked about this, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago, we went over the idea of watching the other players in the market, right? If anybody was here for that or you watched the video, I know that one was fairly popular. Excuse me. Watching what the other players in the market do is so crucial because they're the ones that ultimately dictate what price will do, right? Our singular trades will not dictate where price goes. So we have to be able to look at the majority of people and say, where do they want the market to go? What signals can we draw from the market on an objective standpoint, not based on, well, it's almost at my take profit, so I'm gonna try and size in a little more. These are subjective reasonings, and there's no subjectivity in the market, right? It's everything has to remain objective because we don't have control over it. So looking at, right, if price is about to enter a support line, right? Something simple. But if we see the price comes down and it touches that line and it rejects, if we have money in the market, we're going to be very, very cautionary to stay in that trade because we know, hey, this is a signal that it's going against me and I have a reason to believe it's going to go against me, so I'm going to exit this trade. But if we simply weren't in that trade and we were just watching it, well, now this enables us to look, maybe we go to a higher time frame and we say, well, this was on the 5-minute where it rejected, but we just broke a key area into new lows on the 30-minute time frame, something that we might have missed if we were too focused on what's happening to our money right at that moment. Hopefully that makes some sense, where we're staying out of the markets to get a better key idea of where it's going to go, and that's going to bring me right into patience and timing, right? So more than watching, as important as that is for us to be able to not over leverage ourselves because we feel emotional, or to get out when we really shouldn't and we should just let the trade ride, right? There's waiting, not entering too soon. Sometimes you're going to get feelings such as FOMO, the fear of missing out. This is when waiting is crucial, and it ties in with watching. We start with watching, we start with not being in the market, but then once we have passed that and we feel comfortable to start placing trades, and we know that, we need to look at more than what we see straight in front of us, now it comes to waiting. Like I said with that example with the support level, rather than just having price come down, it reject a little, and then you get out, wait. Don't get out of that trade right away. Have a strategy that says, well, if this happens, I get out if it rejects it 2 times, right? We know a singular rejection isn't much of a reason to think it's going to hold, But if it comes down a second time and rejects, now you can start to ask, okay, is this something I really want to be in? Because it's shown the same price movement twice in a row, or it's rejected a level, right? That goes into entry and exit strategies, right? Maybe we're not looking at it as a way of, oh, it rejected twice, so I need to get out of this trade. Maybe it rejected twice, so I need to enter this trade. You were out of the market, you were just watching, not being a participant, but you have seen the way price has moved, you've seen the way the other participants have reacted to price movement, and now you've decided, okay, I'm not going to enter when it only touches one time. I have to wait for it to touch 2 times or 3 times or 4 times, however much, added confluence you need or confidence you need to enter that trade. That's where patience and waiting to act comes from. Timing the market to you, but only under the market conditions, right? I want to say it one more time just so people understand. Timing the market to you, so under what you see your strategy, but only under the conditions of what the market is giving us. We aren't making any artificial indicators where it's just, well, my take profit is here, so I'm going to wait till there. Have a reason for your take profit to be there, right? I can't stress that enough, that it is important to remain objective in where you place everything, entry, stop loss, and take profit, as far as where the market wants to go, not where you want the market to go. Okay, that's where we're going to get that psychological edge. It's understanding that we can't control the market. We have to sit down and force ourselves to just wait, right? Maybe not even take a trade that day, or bring our total trades for the day down from 3 or 4 down to 1 or 2. Like, these are all things where in the short term, it's going to seem like you're making less money because you're not taking as many trades, right? Maybe you're not taking any trades at all, right? 2 big things that new traders want to do. They want to take as many trades as possible every single day. They don't want to miss a day. But ultimately, those are the traders that lose. We know this based on the data, that most traders who take more trades end up losing more, okay? And into my week 1 challenge, right? So very brief explanation on those first 3 slides, because this is really what this series is about, okay? I'm going to spend more time on this. We're going to start on the left. I want to clarify too before I get into this. Even though it says week 1 challenge, this is not to be done in a single week. If anything, this should be done at a minimum over a month. The only reason I call it week 1 challenge is because this is our, first week or first block of the 3 lesson series. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. But starting off, I want you guys to spend at least 1 full week watching. Right? This means that you are spending from Monday to Friday, whatever hours you trade, whether it be the New York, London, Asian session, whatever it may be, but you spend that full week just watching. We are not placing trades. If you have a strategy already, great. Watch for your strategy to work. The reason this is so important, I've already described why watching is so important, but specifically if you have a strategy already, why it's important just to watch it. Because now you can see live what it would look like if you followed your rules perfectly, right? So if you're not placing trades, you are going to, follow your rules perfectly by just, putting on a, whether you use the long or short tool on TradingView, right? Or if you use Fibonacci retracements, however you want to track where your entry, stop loss, and take profits go, right? Use whatever you want. But by just watching it, your strategy is going to be performed perfectly because you're not actually taking any, trades. Watch that for a week and see what kind of results you get. If you get negative results, right, and it's like, terrible, maybe give it another week if you know your strategy works, right? Give it 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, right? It all depends on the frequency of how many trades you get, what your win rate is, right? How much profit you get out of wins. So I recommend at least a full week, nothing less, but sometimes we may need more of just watching, not placing trades, because as soon as we start placing those trades, you're going to want to make changes. You're going to want to, change something in the strategy because you did something wrong, not because your strategy did something wrong, okay? Next, hone your strategy. Exactly what I was talking about. If you see that your strategy is not working, right? Or if when you go to just watch the charts, remember we're just watching, and you see, well, this happened, let's go back to my support example, right? So let's say price comes down. Your strategy, and I'm just making this up, don't think this is like an actual strategy, but let's say your strategy is price comes down, you look for a support level, and it has to touch the support level twice and reject both times. On the second rejection, you enter after that candle has closed, right? So just, pretty simple. Hopefully everybody can understand that. Let's say that's your strategy. And when the market's active and you're just watching, we're not placing trades, and you see that price comes down and it doesn't quite hit that support level, but it rejects, right? Doesn't quite hit it, right? Maybe it's a couple points away. And then it comes down and it does it a second time. Well, if your rules don't specifically state that it doesn't have to actually touch the level, well, this is what we call judgment holes or judgment gaps or fill in the gaps, whatever you want to call it, right? Judgment calls, sorry, that's what I used to call it, judgment calls, where it's not specifically outlined in our rules what you should do, so you have to make the decision under emotional distress. This is what we are avoiding by just watching the markets. So while you are watching, you can then go in and say, hey, this would have caused me an issue if I was actually placing trades, but since I'm just watching the markets, I'm going to go back and I'm just going to add that to my into my rule book. Right? Maybe you say it does have to actually touch the level. Maybe you say it doesn't have to if it comes within 10 points of the level or 5 points, depending on, whatever asset you trade, right? Some points are worth a lot more than others, right? Use ticks if you have to. Like for oil, I recommend ticks instead of points, right? Any of these things, they're very personal because it's your strategy, but they're based around market reasoning, right? The support level isn't there because you put it there. It's there because the market created it and it rejected it, not because you bought in and made it reject. It rejected it because the other players in the market agreed with that level and they made it reject, right? This is what I mean by remaining objective, okay? And then once we moved past that, and we've spent an entire week or more watching the markets, we have honed in our strategy. We no longer have any of those judgment calls or those gaps in the rule book. We now start risking as small as possible. I recommend people, if you have the accessibility to it, to trade crypto, right? I don't recommend, demo accounts, right, where we're trading paper money. Most often, I recommend crypto because you can risk pennies on the dollar per trade, but still have a consistent risk level where it is as small as possible. But if you feel comfortable, using an evaluation account, do that as well. But I don't recommend opening a live account on the future side of things and trading that, because most often you're getting size where it's $10, $20 a trade. Well, $10 or $20 may not seem like much, but if you take 5 losing trades, you're down $50, $50 to $100, and let's say one of those you didn't follow your rules. Well, now you're getting, back into that realm of emotional distress, and now we have to start over because we've put ourselves in a bad position, all because we didn't risk small enough and we were hoping for that quick payday. Okay, this is what we want to avoid. There are no quick paydays. There are days, for example, this is great. I try to plan these lessons, but I can't plan what the market's going to do. So for today, and I was just talking to Reality about this, I sat in a trade for 2.5 hours. It was very close to my, not final TP, but very close to my next TP where I would move my stop loss in profit rather than just break even. It comes up, almost hits it within the first 20 minutes, doesn't draw, comes all the way back to break even over the course of the next 2 hour 15 or 2 hours, that I was in that trade, and all the way back down. And then right before it stops me out break even, when I'm thinking, all right, whatever, it's a break even trade, is what it is, it shoots past my stop loss and I get stopped out for a small loss. These small losses add up just like the small wins add up, so it still sucks. But had I had that happen to me 6 months ago or a year ago, my reaction would have been completely different, to the point where it would have, first of all, it would have ruined my day, and that sucks because now I got to live with the rest of my day, and it's gonna, I'm gonna feel crappy. But then, secondly, I would have immediately sat down on my charts, and I would have started back testing, and I would have said, well, I have to figure out a way to avoid times like that. I have to avoid. But we can't avoid times like that. We have to track what we made and say, you know what? The day before, I had profit and it was $20 in profit over what I was risking, right? I got a little bit more out of that trade, right? That makes up for today. And that's exactly what happened, right? I track my amount that I make or lose each day, and I always try and be in the positives, right? If I risk 120, I try to get 130 out if I get 1-to-1, right? Just a little bit more. If I'm at break even, try to get a little bit more. For days like today where I cannot control the outcome of the event, I am simply just subject to the market's movements. Nothing I can do about it. Okay, so that's why we risk small, to avoid any little emotional distress moments. And then lastly, track everything, right? This, while I have it, the fourth thing that we go over, this should be the first thing you do starting on day one of your week of watching, right? Track everything. Track your trades. Track how you feel after you watch a loss, a win, or a break even. Track, are you, for example, something that I did. I noticed that when I was trading till 3 o'clock every day, I hated it. I did not want to be on my computer until 3 o'clock, from 9:30 to 3. It's not that long. It's like, a 6-hour workday, 5.5-hour workday. But I'm sitting there doing nothing because I have to watch the charts. So I went through, I backtested, and I said, well, what happens to my overall profit if I just stop trading at 1:30, right? Save myself an hour and a half. Well, first thing I noticed was nothing changed. Literally nothing. Like, the total profit was nothing. I just took a few less trades, but they worked themselves out to basically net zero. And I'm saving myself all that time, so I have more to do with my day. And then I went farther to say, well, what if I just took one trade a day? Instead of having, a maximum of 3 trades a day, I just do 1 trade a day. Same thing. Actually make a little bit more than I would have if I took 2 to 3 trades a day, or 1 to 3 trades a day. I make a little bit more over the long run. Am I taking less trades? Yes. Are my really good months a little bit less in profit? Yes. But the bad months are a little bit less in loss. So it evens itself out, and more than anything, I'm happier trading this way. That's the most important factor. The reason we watch, the reason we get the strategy to be specific, the reason we risk small, the reason we track everything is so that you are comfortable trading. If you're uncomfortable trading, you're going to make the wrong decisions. If you feel like you have to think way too much because your strategy isn't specific enough, you're going to be uncomfortable. If you're risking too much so you can't properly size in when things go against you, you're risking too much. It's putting you in emotional distress, right? If you're not tracking everything and you go a full week or a month and you're like, man, how is my account down when it says I made 3R in profit this month? Well, now you're in emotional distress because you don't know where that money went. But if you tracked it, you would have known. Okay, now, again, hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to pause for a second. Reality, do we have any questions? I feel like I talked for a good bit.
Anybody have any questions, guys? So far, I don't see any.
Gotcha. Okay, not a bad thing. Hopefully everything's getting explained to, as in-depth as possible. And again, just quickly, this is a challenge. This is not another, this is different from my previous weeks where I just kind of go over some key information that I've learned or just want to, give back to the community without, having to show off, this is how much money I make. Like this, I try to teach in a different way, but this week specifically, and the next 2 weeks after this, they are challenges. I don't expect you guys to just, listen to this and then go off and trade the same way you were before. This is something to do. This is not be like, oh, well, I don't really want to watch the markets for 5 days because I want to place trades. If you're thinking that, surely you must hear how ironic this is. Like, you want to place trades and not put in the work of sitting back and actually honing in your strategies, right? Like we need to take the time to put in the work and build the habits that are going to make things better. Now, I'm going to pause there. I see Crown. He said, can we use the practice account to test our strats for the week if we have been at this for a while? Little more than 6 months. Hang on, give me 1 sec. I gotta... I'll say this, Crown, even if you're, well, here, I'm going to clarify. Are you asking, can you use a demo account to place trades instead of just watching the charts? Is that what you're asking? No, that kind of defeats the purpose because I need you to think about it this way. Why are you wanting to place trades? You're addicted. That's all it is. It's as plain and simple as that. You are addicted to placing trades. Everybody gets to be, right? There's no way around it. But by you even asking that question, I can tell, you think that by placing the trades even on a demo account, it's going to serve you more purpose. But it's not. You need to detach yourself from the need to place trades. Because I promise you, let's put this in a different scenario, right? Let's say you have a doctor's appointment coming up, right? And you're on a live account. And, hang on, sorry, I was wondering if you can use that as a TER. I'm not sure what a TER is. As a true record of your strat working. Well, before I go into my analogy, I want to answer that first. If you're unsure if your strategy works, that's completely different than what I'm talking about. This is building a profitable mindset. As far as a strategy working or not working, I recommend people backtest. Right? Backtesting is the best way. It's the most efficient way to determine, does my strategy work? Because it's when you go through it, it's not looking at any emotional bias or anything. It's simply, if I place my entry here, if I put my stop loss here, and I put my take profit here, does it work? Right? Does it work for a week? Does it work for a month? Does it work for 6 months? That's what backtesting is. It's not proof that you can execute it. It's just proof that if you do execute it over enough time, it will net a positive return. That's all backtesting does. And that sounds like what you're asking to make sure that the strategy works. As far as this week 1 challenge, this is directly going into whether you can do it, right? Not whether the strategy works. It's going into, can you place the trades that need to be placed without moving it when it shouldn't be moved, right? Whether that's your stop loss or take profit, or actually entering the trade when you should, not before, not after, right? That's what's most important as far as this challenge. It's working on the mental side of things. So to answer the first question, no, I do not recommend you place trades on a demo account in substitution of just watching the markets, because the whole purpose of watching the market for the first week is to get you away from the need to place trades. That's the whole reason we're doing it, right? You shouldn't feel like you have to place a trade every day. If you do, right, that's a problem that we have to fix, right? Now, again, reiterate one more time, if you're not sure the strategy works, go through, backtest it, then we start this week 1 challenge, right? If we're not sure the strategy works, we can't really start building a profitable mindset. We have to have a profitable strategy first, okay? Reality, anything over in those YouTube chats?
Nope, nothing.
Gotcha, okay. Let me just double check, make sure I don't have anything after that. Nope, that's the end of my slideshow. Well, Reality, if you don't have anything to add, I think, Crown, did I answer that question right? Okay, I'm not seeing anything from him, so I'm gonna assume so. You did? I am just at a point where it's not so much addiction, just fine tuning. Gotcha. Yeah, and I'm not calling you out when I say it's an addiction, because I like it. It truly can be, because we have to remember and be honest with ourselves that this is gambling, right? It's advantage gambling because we can put the odds in our favor, but when you can't control the outcomes of something, right, and you're putting money into it, it starts to sound a lot like gambling, because what it is, but it's advantaged. And as long as we aren't taken advantage by the markets, we can continue to profit. Okay, so there's nothing inherently wrong with admitting, hey, I feel the need to place trades every day. But now that you've admitted it, we take that step and we just watch the market. We take away our need to place trades and we see, oh, it's not so bad, right? It's just a week. And then, we move on and we can start placing those trades to hone in our strategy, risking small and tracking everything that needs to be done, okay? See it, just fine tuning.
Paul said on YouTube that trying not to take trades is hard. He says it's all making sense, but trying not to take trades is hard. And he said, hey to me and you both.
How's it going, Paul? But yeah, it's very, very difficult. I mean, especially when you have to scale back. But there was studies done on the frequency of traders and how much profit they made, and the general consensus was that the less trades we place, the more we're going to profit over the long run, because it's mitigating risk. You know, we have to understand that even if you have a super high win rate, your total R to R or risk to return or whatever, profit scale you use, it's going to be lower. And if you have a lower win rate, it's going to be higher. It's not a one-to-one, as far as, if this goes higher, this one goes lower. But as an overall, you can kind of assume if you're winning more trades, you're going to, win less on those winners. And the reason this is important is because once you understand that, you know that mitigating the amount of time you're in the market is the best way to secure those profits, right? If you're taking one trade a year, right, well, that doesn't mean that you're going to be the most profitable person alive. But if you're taking 1,000 trades a year, well, look at those 1,000 and see what it would be like if you took 500 of them, right? And remember, 1,000 in a year is only 4 a day. So if you bring it down to 500, that's still 2 a day. See what the difference would be in that. And then going from 2 a day to 1 a day, see what the difference in that is. I can almost guarantee you will make more by going 1 a day rather than 4 a day, from 250 to 1,000 trades a year, almost 100% of the time, right? Over the long run, which the long run in that case may be several years. It's all about how much data do we have. 1 a day is what I've been chasing for so long. That's what Crown says. Crown, I want to ask you, what's stopping you from getting there, and how many are you taking right now? Sometimes a day, and that's not a problem. Yeah. I mean, if you're trying to get to 1 trade a day, I wouldn't even advise it, honestly. If you're taking less than 1 a day, that's not a problem, right? If your strategy works, right? Don't feel like you need to be placing more trades to profit more. That's like I was just saying, what the studies show, that's not the case. The more trades you place does not mean you're going to profit more, right? In most cases, it means you're going to profit less over the long run. So don't feel disgruntled just because you're getting less than 1 trade a day. My strategy just happens to be very simple. So I get a lot of trades a day, but I only take the first one because it's heavy reliant on how much volume is in the market. I'm looking for the explosive open, right? Or, that 10 o'clock, 10:30 time. That's where I'm looking for the most volume, and I end my day at 1:30 because I know if I haven't gotten a trade by then, volume's most likely not going to be back up anywhere to where I'm going to want to take a trade. He says, I wish I could have had this mentality explained earlier, may have saved a few accounts. 100% I agree. I've been in this for 2.5 years now, coming up on 3, I want to say 2.5, 3 years, somewhere around there. And it was, only last year that I really started to see some profit. And then, going into this year, I'm starting to see some, what I would consider serious profit as far as where I am financially. But it's all about growth, right? You're not going to know it at the beginning. But that's why I'm trying to condense these lessons into, framework type videos or live streams, whatever you want to call it, so that people can see, well, this is what I've been doing. And this is what you've been doing, and what you're doing may not be working. So try this. It's trying to unhide some of the secret lessons, quote unquote, of trading, where it's really just sitting back and accepting there's only so much you can do. You can't control the market. Place as little trades as possible in response to your strategy and just let it ride. Don't try and manipulate anything, okay? I'll ask one more time. Anybody has any questions? It's great to hear, Crown, that this whole server has been a giant confirmation. All right. Reality, if we don't have anything over there.
No, I'm not seeing anything. I know that.
Okay.
I love that you come in and say trade less. You know how much I agree with that as well. And people, they just don't get that. They really don't. Most people believe that the more you trade, the more money you make, and it's just not it's truly not the case. And people just don't grasp that, sadly. So
yeah, if you guys ever look into Mark Douglas, he has 2 books. I read his later one. I'm currently reading the one that he wrote prior to it. This I guess the prequel. Both of them are great. Both are chock full of the mentality behind trading. I think I referenced them 2 weeks ago in the lesson. But the main takeaway from that is that he goes into and he explains that taking less in trading is more. Less is more, right? That that old saying, less is more. It's just on the math side of things, right? If you understand and accept, you're not going to have 3-to-1 return on investment when you have a 90% win rate strategy. That's not real. That doesn't exist. It might exist for a month, but that doesn't exist over years. It just doesn't. You can't get those type of returns without some high level data. At least I don't believe so. I have yet to see it. I've yet to see it be proven. But what does exist is you win 90% of the time, or even 80% of the time, and then you win maybe a little bit under 1-to-1 or at 1-to-1, right? That does exist, right? It's difficult, but then if you drop back, to where I'm at, I risk, or I'm at about 55 to 60% win rate. So I only win a little bit more than I lose, and that includes break evens, but my winners are about 1.5 my losses. And then you factor that by the end of the year, you're getting about, in a perfect world, I guess, 70 R to R. It's not crazy good or glamorous returns, but when you're continually reinvesting the profits and you're compounding that, and you look at it, well, I'm risking 3% a trade, that's 210% by the end of the year. And if I get a few good months, like the data shows that it's usually a couple months that where I make most of my money and the rest are mostly close to break even or small losses, you start to size in. That's where the money's made. It's not from getting a ton of money in 1 month. It's a few months that make some, but then sitting through all the break even months or sitting through the -1 R months. That's where people start to trade for 20 days out of the month, every single trading day, and they feel like, man, I only made 1 R. What's the solution? Oh, I guess I have to trade more. And then they go into the next month and they lost money, and they think, well, I got to trade more than this, or I have to change what I'm doing or start scalping, right? Like, this is the common rabbit hole we go down. And this week 1 challenge should show you that that's not the case. It should be taken as little as possible dependent on your strategy. So I'm going to call it there, everybody. Again, thank you for joining me. Thank you, Reality, for being a wonderful host. We'll bring this over into next week, where I'll be going over the second week. And just a reminder, this week 1 challenge isn't meant to be done in a single week. Take screenshots of this, and of course I'll be re-uploading this as a short form video on the Learn Trade Win channel, all right, for you guys to be able to view everything that's important from this video. But yes, thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you guys next week.
Appreciate it, Landon.
Sure.
All right, guys, that is the end. I appreciate each and every one of you for showing up. And as always, guys, stay consistent out there.